All right. My great-grandfather once told me that, unlike the victims of manifest destiny, the white man never did stop scalping. We just changed around the meaning of the word. He weren't a man with any great love for the Native American. Then again, he never had any great love for any man, woman, or child walk this earth. But him saying that, those words in that particular way, it always stuck with me. This was my great-grandfather on my mom's side. I never did know my great-grandfather on my father's side. Didn't know my grandfather neither. They're both dead well before I came along. Father died when I was 6. Something in their genes, I guess, and hell now, I suppose it's something in mine too. It's funny, the stuff that gets handed to you right out of the gate. You ain't got a lot to say in it. You're just kind of left to deal with the fallout. There's consequences of original sin, I suppose, still. Hell of a way to enter the world. Position to fail. My great-grandfather, again, my side, he done set up a lot of the ways in which our family operated. Until I left my childhood home for good at the age of 14. That was the way things continued to operate, For all I know, they still operate that way up until this day. Well, he's long since passed. I've been home in over 30 years. I think my ma's still alive. You hear things. Part of me, small part neither. Hope she ain't. That's all right. I used to snatch the loft ladder on cooler nights and use it to climb up on the roof. Lie up there, staring at the stars. When the house was built, and it was long before that, all the trees were rooted. All but 2. One of those trees half covered up the west side of the house, kept it cooler in the summers, never did blow over. So I would lie on the tin on the east side. And you see for miles. Even in a new moon, you could see car headlights from time to time driving down 6, and that must have been 3-4 miles away. Easy. Richie used to come up too, time to time. And one night he was being stupid, fell off, broke his arm. I got a whooping. And I was never stupid enough to bring him back up there again. I preferred being alone anyway. Staring at that band of light across the sky from horizon to horizon. In a trance. Not having to answer any questions. Thinking around the way some stars flickered, some didn't. Where we didn't seem to have any crickets. None that I could hear. I heard crickets at the friends' houses, but not at ours. And I never did figure that out. Maybe our pesticides were just better. Anyhow, my great-grandfather, he made most of the rules, see? It was his land. My father married into it. Genetically, he may have been somewhat hobbled, but one way of looking at it was that he struck the lottery when he met my mother. It's one way of looking at it. I don't think he got much respect on that farm. That's just me speculating mostly. But I seem to have some recollection Mike could back that idea up. The rules weren't his. They were my ma's grandfather's. The habits. Chapel on Sunday. Perimeter walks twice a week. He had to endure these little indignities just as surely as I did. Maybe it's for the best he checked out early. One of these routines maybe played the biggest part in molding my life. My work was the slaughter rotor. I did not grow up entirely alone. I had a couple friends. I was glad to see them every once in a while. When I go to their houses, I see some horrible things. That time, that country, people destitute. It could be selfish, cruel. Father so steeped in whiskey, made me glad mine was dead. Sisters couldn't speak right, spoke like they was 10 years younger than they was. God knows what happened to them, make them that way. Jeff Cotton's mother. She once asked me while I was helping to clean the table after dinner one night. She asked me if I'd ever had relations before. I told her I had not. She remedied that right quick. I remember it. She was wearing a dress covered in flowers and an apron covered in lard. She pulled me into the walk-in pantry. Smelled of barley corn. She pushed me against the window. Lifted her dress and had her way with me. It was easy for her. I got hard whenever a cool wind blew. But afterwards, I felt shame. And I felt anger. Anyway, there were a lot of things like that, and those things generally made me feel grateful for the lot I had. Of all the houses of all the friends I ever visited, I never once did see one that had a rotor for slaughtering. Jimmy Martin, is Jack's son, owned the filling station out on 6. His house had a rotor for chores. We didn't have one of those. If we didn't do a chore we were supposed to do. Yeah. We get slammed across the face with a razor strop. Strop hung on the icebox. Reminder. There's blood on it. Never were sure whose blood that was. It came from sharpening or smacking. Either way, that particular totem did its job, and then some. Our house was clean. Slaughter rotor included the name of every animal we had that could be it, and every person what lived in our house. Didn't matter if you were there since you were born, if you came to visit for a month, if you ate in that house, your name ended up on that rotor. We didn't get many friends nor relatives come calling for long. And in retrospect, I suppose maybe that was part of the point. I can see it in my head perfectly. The rotor looked like a child's toy. Kind of thing you'd spin or you'd pull a string and then the air would go around. When it landed on an animal, you'd hear the sound the animal made. Then in a way, that's exactly what it was for us too. Oh, but you didn't want to hear the sound the animal made, what this rotor landed on. And you did not want to be the name beneath it neither. Chickens. Chickens were the easiest. It's true what they say. Chickens will run around without their heads for a time and twitch for a time. Read about one chicken supposedly lived for years without a head, but I'm more inclined to believe that was just a chicken without a face. Farmer twitched, maybe lost his nerve for a second. That's all it takes. But a chicken running around without a head don't make much noise. From all the bluster you hear when you walk into that coop, you cannot tell me for 1 second there's a single animal in there don't know the Grim Reaper is walking amongst them. All killers. The worst were the pigs. I would rather kill 100 chickens than a pig. But the rotor didn't allow for no bartering. The rotor was sacred as Sunday morning. You try and get out of rotor duty and you'd end up with a lot worse than a strop. Granddad on my mom's side, he'd see to that. Richie's broken arm only got him out of one spin. He was still wearing a cast the next time duty called. He just had to work his way around it. It's funny when it's not you. Hell, even great-granddad was on that rotor. Till the night he woke up the whole house walking down the hallway, howling like a wounded wolf. Scared me half to death. I think he was trying to scream, help. But I couldn't tell. He passed by my room. Richie's too. Grateful for that. I watched him head towards Mama's room. I could see from behind his right leg was dragging. He never did make it to the hospital in Wickford. That was the only way off the rotor. So, you see, there just weren't no winning. Fortunately, we didn't have many pigs. So, we didn't eat many pigs. We maybe slaughtered 3 a year. Ate what we could immediate. Salted the rest. Had bacon for a month, maybe 2. Wait until a season or 2 had passed. Sure as sap, pig come up on the rotor again. I left that house 3 months after my 14th birthday. I was on that rotor for 5 of those years. I killed 3 pigs. I could tell you right now, with certainty. I never got any better at it. There wasn't no way to really practice. The first time you don't know what you're in for, and that's a blessing. You don't even know you're going to be using a straight razor. A small one, like one you'd shave with. That was the way. Messy. Close. Second time, well, maybe you blocked out the first time a bit. But the third time, you can't really play those games with yourself anymore. Third time's why I left home. We didn't have any proper roads around us until you reached Paris Mill. It was about 2-3 miles down along 2 worn tire grooves in the ground. Grass trying to spring up in the center. Struggling like the Dickens to survive. Once the fence line proper started, you knew you were off our property and onto Norris's farm. You hear the crickets again. We had a fence once. A tornado took down half of it. Never did have the time nor resources to replace it. But then again, Granddad never saw much need of demarcating the line between the Norris farm and ours. He let his Winchester 30-06 settle any disputes when it came to who owned what. Saw to it that Norris didn't pull any funny business by virtue of the aforementioned perimeter walks twice a week. Granddad's farm has 123 acres. Now, if you are in the knowing of how plots of land are sold, you get right off that that's a peculiar number. It's 2 acres more than square. Even odders, them's not consecutive acreage. It's because there's an easement. Runs it right through. Annexed by the United States government. The mid-19th century. It's used to run supplies to the front during the Mexican-American War. War ended, but instead of giving that land back, they used it to run a natural gas pipeline. That didn't make Granddad any richer. And it sure made him no friend in Winfield Scott, or James Polk for that matter. Granddad told Ma, he said he never thought his own government would scalp him. But at least now he knew what it felt like. I wasn't so sure about that. Getting a headache. Anyway, that accounted for the usual acreage. Also accounted for the fact that the family was touchy about the subject of land. Now, Sam Norris was well aware of this fact. There never was no beef between them that I was aware of. Nor any need to fix that fence line. When I left home, it's the middle of summer 1953, I walked. Of course I walked. We didn't have no horses. I had a couple of mules for plowing. But if I dared take one of them, I'd be hunted, kin or no. Now, if you remember that summer, you remember how hot it was. People say the world's getting hotter and hotter. I don't know about all that. But summer 1953 was sweltering. By the time I'd reached the fence line, letting me know I was now walking through Norris's farm, I was already coated head to toe. The film was sweat mixed with trail dust. Gnats stuck to it like flypaper. It's when I knew my exodus was going to be a miserable affair. I knew it. I knew it just a few hundred yards from my own front door. Well, there weren't no way I was going back. Nuh-uh. In those days, in those parts, hitchhiking wasn't looked down on or gainsayed. Lucky me. I like to think maybe I had some small part in changing that. I knew once I got to Paris Mill, I'd have a decent chance of catching a ride. And if nobody came along that day, I'd just walk home and come back out the next day. No sweat. Well, sweat. Heaps of sweat. But no sweat. Paris Mill wasn't shut down. Not exactly. There were several silos that hadn't been filled or used in years. This particular afternoon, there wasn't a soul in sight. Near the edge of the road, I was 6. There was a stack of 50-gallon drums. Empty. Planted myself atop one of them, hot as it was. And I waited. Damned. The first car come by wasn't leading a funeral procession. Flags on the front, placard in the windshield. Driving slow as rot. Saw it coming from a mile away. The dead ain't in no hurry. No, couldn't very well catch a lift from a car in a funeral procession. But it meant there were a few cars trapped in the wake of that procession. And the first car I saw, what didn't have a placard in the window, stuck my thumb out. And I tried to look older. First car didn't stop. The second one did. I'd been in cars before. We had a truck, but you didn't so much ride in it as you did hold on for dear life while you were banged and bruised up on a hay brick. But I remember this car. I'll remember this car till the day I die, probably longer. 1952 Chevy Skylark. Kind where the top came down. Top was down when they stopped. I didn't even know such a thing was possible. First I thought maybe the car had been in some sort of accident. I lost the roof. Sitting in that car was a man and woman. Man's hair looked like he'd just been caught outside in a storm. Woman had a kerchief, keeping things nice, tidy. Couple. Man was smoking a hand-rolled. I could see the pouch tobacco shoved in the front seat crease. The lady asked if I've ever been in a convertible. I remember answering, "What's a convertible?" They had a good laugh about that. Guess that's when I decided I was going to slice their throats with the pig razor I'd put in the front breast pocket of my overalls. There was a voice in my head, and it reasoned with me without room for disagreement. If we didn't do our chores, we would be with a strop. Same strop was used to sharpen the razor we used to slaughter pigs. Hell, before that, maybe great-granddaddy used the same razor. Give the Indians a taste of their own medicine at Kelly Creek. And now, here I was, in a car that looked like it too had been scalped. And it was trailing a funeral procession. I was sitting pretty behind the fatted calves. Pig razor in my front pocket. It just seemed like the right thing to do. Can't barter with the rotor. I saw the car was low on gas. Jack Martin's filling station was a few miles north, across the road from the chapel where I spent either too many Sunday mornings or too few, depending on your point of view. It was likely the same chapel where the funeral procession was heading. A couple would stop there. I knew the Martins. I knew that filling station. I knew there was a retaining wall between the pumps and the road. It's only a few feet high, but high enough to afford some privacy. I thought maybe I could get them to put the top up after we stopped. Make up some story about a dust storm. They didn't look like they was local. And really, it'd only be half made up. Midsummer like that. We had dust storms, I'd take the breath right out of you. And they'd come on without a whiff nor a warning. Killed one of our dogs about 5 years back. Never found naught but his bones following winter. I'm pretty sure it was him. There's no way to know for sure. Anyway, if I could get them to put the top up when we stopped, I could kill the woman while the man filled the tank. And then, when the man poked his pig head back in to see why his good lady wife was letting her head hang in such a peculiar fashion, well, I'd glide that wet blade ear to ear for him too. The seats were leather, and that was good. More dead animals for dead animals to lie on. And I knew that if I could drive that forward, just barely held together with a string and spit, driving this affront to decency would be easy as warm peach pie. I thought maybe I'd keep the lady in the front seat with me. Marion Cotton had acquainted me with the ways of women. I guess maybe in spite of everything, that it stoked my appetite a bit. Oil, blood, gasoline, tobacco. I could anticipate the mingling scents. better than barleycorn. That much is certain. So like I said, I knew my way around the Martin filling station. I knew they kept 5-gallon cans out back near the crapper. So I filled up 2 of them after I'd done my work. Thought I'd have a little bonfire that night. Drove about 200 miles before I was just too darn tired to drive anymore. Pulled off, parked in a cleared field about a half mile from the main road. Set up camp for the night. I smoked the man's last rolled cigarette. He did the rolling, I did the smoking. And I did it while I dragged him on top of some kindling, mostly dried corn stalks. Then I doused him in gasoline. In my head, he was going to burn to ash. And in the process, give me enough light to spend some quality time with his lady friends. That's not what happened. He only burnt about 15 minutes. Then the fire went out. And while he was surely unrecognizable, he was far from ash. And that wasn't going to do. So I added another couple of gallons of gasoline to this black scar on the ground, and I piled his lady friend right on top of him, just like he would have liked. And then I doused them both with everything I had in the second can. I kept her kerchief, put it in the left breast pocket of my overalls. A kerchief and a razor. What more does a man need? They burnt some more, but they never did get close to ash. I'm guessing the coyotes got to him finally, because I didn't hear nothing about neither one of them until much, much later. When I left early the next morning to make time, I knew anybody stumbled on that scene wouldn't have had to look close to see something wasn't right. So either nobody ever did stumble on the scene, or scavengers did my work for me. I'm inclined to think the latter, but relying on circumstance ain't really a long-term kind of deal. And I don't think you could call the next 5 years of my life well planned. For the most part, things just seem to follow each other. Killed 6 more in that time, mostly women. Killed 2 men, but they were incidental. Money wasn't really a problem, but I didn't want to stick my head up any more than I needed to. So I pretty much lived off stolen field corn till that made me sick. And then I maybe fish in an offshoot of the Snake River, shoot a frog. Traveled south. shacked up for a while with this older gentleman. He's having trouble, as all old men do, with the essential daily tasks of life. I lost interest after too long, moved on. Might be you want to look in on him. North Texas. Finally slipped up just outside San Antonio. I would say my luck finally ran out on me, but really, I think my luck ran out on me the day I slaughtered my last pig. And now that I was a full-fledged adult, my sentence put my name on the rotor. Fair's fair. Richie came down once after I'd been waiting my turn about 10 years. We talked a few minutes. He didn't tell me Ma was alive, but he didn't tell me she was dead neither. And I reckon that's the kind of thing you'd say if it were true. It's been another 15 years. I ain't seen hide nor hair of anyone who once took part in this particular grim circus. Maybe she's still around. Maybe not. Either she's dead or I'm dead to her. And soon enough I'll just be dead, period. Won't matter then. I read they use leather straps on the chair. Keep you from moving too much. That true? I also read they tested this thing on horses. Dozens of them, so y'all killed animals to kill me. And I killed folk to be killed by you. That's strange sort of logic, isn't it? Your slaughter rotor is just a little more official. That don't make it any less barbaric. My great-grandfather told me the white man never did stop scalping. They just changed around the meaning of the word. There's a whole lot of killing going on, whatever way you look at it. I don't believe in all that reincarnation hokum. But if I did, I guess I'd have to come back as a pig. Fair's fair. And I botched that third pig. It took him 30 minutes to die. And I was too embarrassed or too scared to go back to the house and get help. I've been bloody ever since. All right. I'm done.